Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bourbon and Boxing. I am your host, Jeff. Welcome to episode 10, and we're going to call this one Hot Water, baby. Hot Water. We got a female boxer and some hot water. Going to give my thoughts on the Alicia Baumgardner situation and, go from there. But I'm also going to give you guys my reaction to the Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez fight. I won't get much into the Anthony Joshua fight. I gave you guys my reaction on that last week. I will give talks about him fighting Wilder and what Hearns has to say. His kind of flip flopping back and forth. Uh, People think I'm not a fan of Hearns, but I'll clear that up on the show today about my feelings about Eddie Hearns. And it's no hard feelings, guys. I don't dislike the guy. But anyways, I'll give you guys those reactions on that. And then, of course, we'll drink some bourbon while we do our show like always. It's not bourbon and boxing without some bourbon. Today's bourbon is called Larceny. It is out of Kentucky, of course. It is named after a former Treasury officer, John Fitzgerald, who used to go in and steal the best barrels of bourbon. I like that. He was a treasury, but he was also an outlaw, and he only liked the wheat bourbon. He didn't care for the rye bourbon, which I'm right with him on that. Not a big fan of rye bourbon, but once again, today, guys, we are drinking on Larceny, man. Give that a check out. Not a bad price on it. Runs me around my usual, what I like to spend, about $30. Now, I do go further sometimes. I don't have an issue with going higher, but I feel like there's not much difference in the $30 bourbon and the $50 bourbon, really. But like I said, let's get this show started with our usual shot. Now, you guys, this is the first I am drinking of this. I kind of took myself a little break, gave myself a little break this week. Everything like that for him. And I'm not an alcoholic, so let's not take that as I'm some big old alcoholic or some shit. I just took some time off drinking and decided, hey, I'll do it on Friday this week, man. That's it. So you guys get to open this bottle fresh with me, man. We're going to pour the first shot here. Get this shot, and you're going to see my live reaction to this, man. See what this stuff is all about. This company's been around since 1870, so I would think they know their bourbon. Been around for a while. And like I said, it's called Larceny, man. Let's give it a shot. All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 10. Once again, Bourbon and Boxing, man. We're going to delve into some reaction of the fights last week. We're going to talk about some of the big news over the weekend that we got. Talk about a couple of the fights that went on today. Some of the fights that are on now, actually. Not big names, but some good young guys who maybe need to make a step forward. Watched the fight earlier. I'll give you my reaction to the McCain fight. I think that's what it is. McCann. Give my reaction to his fight, Danny McCain. Then we're also, like I said, we'll dive into what I think is a pretty big week. Next week being put on by Top Rank, man. We'll get into those fights next week also. Just kind of give you my, not really a breakdown, just my, give the news on the fights that are going on and, who the big names are next week, man. It's going to be a pretty decent weekend next week. All-day event once again for boxing next week. I don't mind a little lazy week like this. And then, a nice big week the following week. That always makes nice. But, all right, let's give a shot. Take this shot, get this show started, baby. That's what we do here on Bourbon and Boxing. We drink while we talk boxing, what we love the most, bourbon and boxing. All right. All right, put the lid on that. We'll take another shot probably midway through. Don't plan on getting too wasted tonight. Not bad, actually. Not bad. I like it. Not bad stuff. Once again, it's called Larceny out of Kentucky. Pretty good bourbon. But let's jump into my reaction to the fight last week, Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez. Now, if you saw my show last week, you saw how excited I was about that fight. Being Navarrete is one of my top favorite fighters at the moment. And, of course, everybody's got to love Oscar Valdez. Massive heart, great fighter, good young guy. Uh, so to see that fight happen, man, there's so many mixed reviews right now. So I don't want to. It's hard to deny that Navarrete controlled that fight more than what ESPN announcers were trying to put off. Uh, to the point that, do I want to see a rematch? Not really. I would like to see Navarrete versus Shakur Stevenson. That's the fight I would really like to see Navarrete go towards next, not a rematch against Oscar Valdez. Maybe down the road somewhere those guys meet up again. But I think that Navarrete controlled enough of that fight to the point to where it wasn't really as close as what they made it out to be. Valdez landed some big punches, had some big, but it seemed like every time he did try to go in with those big lunging punches, Navarrete would hit him with the jab, which he did beautifully all night. He established, I think he threw 136 jabs, something. It might have been more than that. He threw over 1,000 punches, but I know he threw a massive, more amount of jabs than what he usually throws in his career. So once again, we're seeing a fighter add to their game, and as soon as I didn't think you could really understand Navarrete's style, he kind of threw some orthodox in there for us instead of being so unorthodox like he is, a style of fighter that he actually is. So it was nice to see that he actually worked on that jab. Then I talked about his conditioning, man, was a big factor for me in a lot of his previous fights. One of his biggest flaws was the fact that once he got into the later rounds, he wore down. And it's because he's a really, really active fighter too, though, guys. That's what a lot of people don't understand. When you're throwing 1,000 freaking punches a fight almost, he's really, really active. So he's more active than what he looks also. He looked like the less active fighter. It was the weirdest thing. You know what I mean? He was landing just accurate punch after punch. Everything he was landing was pretty deadly towards Valdez, busting up that eye pretty bad on him. But to see him establish that jab and use it the way he did was really awesome. But I was more impressed with how he paced himself. You saw him slow it down around the 6th and 7th round, and that's where Valdez probably had his best, looked his best, were the 2 rounds that Navarrete took more time off of in the 6th and 7th round, paced himself to go into the later rounds. And then when he got to the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th round, he looked unbelievable, man. He looked like he didn't lose any steam. He was fighting well. He was breathing well. He looked really, really good out there. It's kind of what I expect from a guy like Navarrete. Been watching him for a while. Been trying to tell people about Navarrete for a really long time. I'm not going to take credit as the guy who's turned you guys on to Navarrete, but I've been watching him for a while, man. Love this guy. His style is definitely different, and Valdez, man, absolute soldier in there. Never quit. Never once went out on that stool, man, when he could have, with the way that eye was, knowing that he probably couldn't see out of that eye now, and we don't know what kind of damage has been done to it. So I don't want to speculate on that. But the fact is that it just didn't look good, and he just, every time he tried to get something started, he was patient, like I said. He was trying to set up that counter like I talked about. And every time he did, he would get countered when trying to counter and then he would get countered. That's hard to fathom sometimes. It's hard to really understand as a fighter that you're doing everything and this guy's just absolutely dominating you on every level. And I think Navarrete beat him worse than Shakur did. As far as what I saw, dominated Oscar Valdez more than Shakur. And Valdez gave Shakur a lot of love. So I'm very interested to see what he has to say about Navarrete, because I feel like, man, and nothing against Valdez, man, massive heart, bro, massive heart, massive shout out to you for just being the soldier that you are, not giving up, going 12 rounds, with a beast like Navarrete, and just the punishment that he took on that eye and just continuing to go and go. And he just didn't, it's not like he gave up. He just kept trying to go. He kept trying to land that big shot. And when he would get a flurry going, he'd get countered really, really hard. And that's what was killing him, man. Every time he got something going, Navarrete would shut it down immediately and just establish the dominance of the fight, man. Great defense by Navarrete, too, who gets a lot of slack for his defense, his lack of defense, shall you say, taking the bigger punches. But even with Valdez, he wasn't taking pure punches from him, man. So it was pretty impressive to watch what he does. And a lot of people don't understand that Valdez is a top 10 defensive boxer in boxing, man. Top 10. So he is a great defensive guy. Very smart, knows how to defend well, and he just couldn't against a guy like Navarrete. So that should tell you a lot about Navarrete in itself, the type of fighter that he is, that he absolutely destroyed a top 10 defensive fighter and dominate him in a very, very big way. My first reaction to when the fight was over, I'll tell you what, Teddy Atlas has taught me something very, 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 very valuable when watching fights now. To turn off the commentary. Because it seems like too many of these guys have too many ulterior motives to make you think that fight's going different than what it is. Now, when I listened to the first 4 rounds of that, before it popped in my head what Teddy always says, turn that sound off and watch that fight. You break it down a lot better. So, 4 rounds in, I'm getting tired. Or actually, it was 5 rounds in, and I feel like Navarrete pretty much was dominating the whole fight. Maybe you could have gave a round to Valdez, maybe the first round, and nothing outside of that. But the announcers were really trying to make this like Valdez could have been winning this fight. He was really laying it all out there, not really giving Navarrete the credit that I felt that he definitely deserved. And they were trying to, I think, they're trying to sell this fight for, a rematch or the next big Mexican war. Is these guys. So Eric Morales and the other guy, I can't think of his name right now, but they were trying to make it another that big Mexican war fight to where we could possibly get 3 of these great fights. So they were trying to convince you that Valdez was doing really, really good in that fight, and he wasn't. And the more you go back and watch it a second time, and like I said, watch it without the commentator. Do what Teddy Atlas says. Turn that sound down and just watch the fight. You see a completely different fight, in my opinion, and you also ignore what the commentators are saying, who are trying to most of the time maybe sway you into thinking something else than what it really is. I mean, you see it on the Zone, you see it on Showtime, you see it on Top Rank. Some of these guys are just, you're like, oh, God, man, like what the hell? Like on Showtime, I was really appalled a few weeks ago on one of their scorecards. They were trying to make it out like Frank, and it was the Frank Martin fight. They were really trying to convince people that Frank Martin lost that fight, and he absolutely didn't, guys. It was ridiculous. He controlled. If you go back and watch that fight, it's another fight. Take the commentary out of it and just watch the fight. Frank dominated that whole fight. He was never in trouble, not one time. Knocked the guy down, if I'm correct, 3 times. Had him in trouble, all this other stuff, but then Showtime was trying to tell you that, hey, this Humanides, or whatever his name was, he won that fight. But I wasn't buying it, man. And then, hearing the Zone, sometimes hearing Sergio Garcia, I think that's who it is, on there. Sometimes his commentating is just, he tries to convince you that the other guy's in the fight, he's doing well. It's like he wants to go the opposite of whoever is winning. He wants to go to the guy who's not winning and try to convince you that he might still actually be in this fight. But that's why I love what Teddy Atlas says, man. Turn that sound off and listen to that fight. You're going to see a whole different fight. I have every time I've done that. I see the fight for what it is, and then, you really get a big opinion on who won that fight. Turning that Valdez and Oscar Valdez and Emmanuel Navarrete fight down after the 5th round really helped me break down and watch that fight. And that's why I told you I watched Navarrete slow it down for the 6th and 7th round, which made Valdez kind of look like he was getting in there. It was a fight. And then he came back in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th round and just dominated that fight completely. He was just preserving himself. He went round 2, 3, 4, 5 and just dominated Valdez. And then around 6 and 7, he took himself a little break. But watching that fight the way I did without the commentators, and then after I watched the fight, I went back through the week, watched people's review on it, and a lot of people were saying the same thing, that the commentators, like, what were they seeing? They were really trying to sway you on that fight. And I think that had a lot to do with Top Rank's agenda of trying to make, uh, a prequel, a big Mexican war out of this, make money off of these two guys as much as they can, make it an incredible fight. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a good fight or Oscar Valdez didn't fight a good fight, and he didn't put all his heart into it, because he absolutely did, man. He never stopped, so nothing away from that guy. But Navarrete was just clearly the more talented guy, and he was by a long run, man. Really impressive. Like I said, I've been a true fan of his for a really long time now. Kind of turned people on to him. Been trying to turn people on to him. Let them know about this guy. Like, man, he's different. His length. But here's my opinion, man. Him versus Shakur. I am a big Shakur Stevenson fan also. I always seem to say my opinion on Shakur is that he is possibly the future of boxing. He's really smart in there and calculated on what he does, and his ring IQ really impressive. So to see him versus Navarrete, how that fight would go down. Does he go back down to 130 to fight Navarrete? Do they kind of make a catch weight 130, 135? I think one guy should either go up or one guy should come down. Navarrete has the size, in my opinion, to go up to 135. And if he went to 135, now you're talking about a super division. To the point to where, probably the most, and you wouldn't say it's overrated, if Navarrete goes to lightweight. I mean, Shakur and Tank, Haney's still in there, Loma's still in there, Ramirez still in there. God, and I know I'm missing guys in that stable, but Cabosa, guys like that, but just absolutely packed with talent in that 135. If he was to go there, it'd be like, holy crap. Now that would be set up for another guy to be in possibility of unifying that division. But I think a Shakur versus Navarrete fight would be really, really hard for me to choose a winner in that. My heart, after watching Navarrete, says that his size, the way he fights, is just really, really different. And I love Shakur as a fighter, and his style of fighting is more of the technical, smart, IQ style fighter. And then you got Navarrete who comes in and doesn't follow any of the rules. He's unorthodox. He throws punches from angles and distance that you shouldn't be able to throw punches from, that most guys aren't going to land. You're swinging, missing, taking energy away, but he lands those, and he lands them with power and precision. And you think you're out of the way. It's just very, very weird to watch this guy go in almost like he doesn't have a game plan, but he finds a way to show you what his game plan is, and that's just to go out there and fight. I feel like he definitely had a game plan against Oscar Valdez, though. He did really good with that jab, establishing that jab. So I think he had definitely for sure 100% game plan going into that. Established his jab to the point to where it just added to his arsenal with that size. Every time Valdez lunged in, he would just stop it immediately with a straight jab and just end anything that Valdez was trying to do. Every time Valdez would come in and get a flurry of punches off, he would counter him with a nice looping hook. And then, man, it's just hard to beat that guy, man. But hats off to Oscar. And guys, man, how soon does a Navarrete Shakur fight happen? Shakur is all about money. That's my only issue with Shakur, man. I think he could make a lot more fights happen, and that money's going to be there for him. But I think he's got to take the fights on the table now. Like, every time it comes down to a fight, he's pay me. Where's my money? Pay me. I want to be paid. Like, I think the Navarrete talks were in talks before, and he said, hey, pay me. The Haney fight, hey, pay me. I don't want that 25%. I mean, sometimes we got to take a page from Devin Haney to take those fights now, and in the end, it's going to pay off for you. And I think, I don't speak for anybody else's money either. If that's Shakur's way, then that's Shakur's way. If he says, I only fight for a certain amount of money. I don't take a pay cut for anybody because I believe that much in myself. You can't fault a guy for that. And I'm not faulting him, but I'm saying, hey, sometimes you got to bend to, receive a little bit, and you don't bend to where you break, but you've been to the point to where I think you gotta negotiate because these fights are out there for him. People want to fight Shakur because of his name, the attention that you're going to bring to that type of atmosphere with a guy like Shakur up and coming like he is. So I think a lot of guys want to fight him, and especially in the lightweight, man, you cannot stay stagnated when there's this much talent, and he's with Top Rank, and a lot of that talent is in the Top Rank stable. So no excuse to why he's not fighting right now, or hasn't made a fight with a big time fight. Honestly, even with a Pitbull Cruz, a guy like that, who we all know is out there. Of course, the Loma fight. They're saying Loma backed out of that. I don't know the whole story about that. Maybe Loma's not ready to get back into the ring yet. But I feel like, maybe something stagnated that. But of course, Haney said, hey, I'll fight you. Before he announced that he would fight Regis, he said, I'll fight Shakur, but you're going to take 25%. And taking another shot. But Shakur, I guess, took that kind of insulting, basically saying, hey, 25% my ass. I want more than that. But that's not going to happen, man. Devin's a unified champ. He's going to make the calls on that. And he's got so many other guys on the table, so many other options that if he's making you that offer and you don't take it, well, it's to the next guy. And he showed that immediately. Boom, right to Regis. Okay, you don't want this? Cool. Hey, Regis, you want to fight me? Regis didn't hesitate, took that fight. And here's a messed up thing, man. This will kind of take me into my Eddie Hearns thing. On the internet, I get a lot of slack for people over in the UK stating that I do not like Eddie Hearns. I have a issue with Eddie Hearns. I have no issue with Eddie Hearns. I think he's a good promoter, but he's no different than any other promoter, man. He's going to piss down your back and tell you it's raining. Excuse my language. You know what I mean? He's going to blow smoke up your arse. You know what I mean? That's Eddie Hearns. He's no different than any other promoter, man. Some of the slide things he says when we were talking about the Devin Haney Regis Prograde fight, I hear him say in his last interview that, if that fight happens. And I'm like, well, hold on, man. I thought that fight was already in agreement. I thought the contract was on the table, had been signed. These guys are ready to go, looking at like October or something like that. And then now you hear him say that, oh, well, that fight, if that fight happens. So, that's things that get on my nerves with Eddie Hearns. And like I said, he's no different than any other promoter. They're going to blow smoke up your ass. But in an interview that he had on a British sports network, I'm not for sure what it is, but a buddy of mine showed it to me. I watched it. And on that, he pretty much stated that the Wilder and the Deontay Wilder and AJ fight was guaranteed. It was going to happen. Regardless if the fight fell through with White and he didn't fight anybody, the next plan was to fight Wilder. They had it, he said it was guaranteed. Said that on a sports British show. Then I watched him on a DAZN boxing show that's on there, DAZN boxing. And he literally states on there that he hasn't even talked to Wilder's team. There's absolutely no agreement that they will fight. There's been no contract sent to anybody. And that's what I'm talking about, man. Like, I've seen him do that so many times. He said something about the Anthony Joshua and Fury fight at one point was going to happen. Like, oh, this is guaranteed to happen. And it didn't happen. So that's the only thing I have with Hearns is that more than a lot of the other promoters, he blows more smoke up your ass as far as when it comes to him stating that something is guaranteed. He puts too many guarantees on things that you haven't talked to Wilder's team. There's no contract in place. There's no guarantee that fight will even happen. So you don't even know what the Wilder side is thinking. But yet you're all over television stating that, oh, this Wilder fight's going to happen. We're going to make this fight happen. This fight's going to happen. 100% the Saudis are going to pay for it. All this other crap, man. And Eddie Hearns hasn't even talked to the Wilder side. So that's pretty much my issues with that, man. It's just hearing this guy continuously tell you something's guaranteed and then turning around a week later and saying, "Oh well, I don't know what happened in that fight. It was in progress, but we never talked to the team, and there was no guarantees on anybody's part." Crap like that. I don't know how bad my British accent was, but that was my impression of Eddie Hearns bullshitting you all the time about a fight that's going to happen that doesn't happen. He does that a little too much for my liking. Now, that doesn't take away from what I think how good he is as a promoter, the fights he put on, what he's done at the Zone as a promoter. Absolutely awesome, man. I don't dislike Eddie Hearns. I just wish he would be a little bit more truthful when it comes to what he's saying, a little bit more honest, instead of flip-flopping on a lot of the shit that he says when he'll say, well, one thing's going to happen. Oh, this is a guaranteed fight, Wilder and AJ. It's going to happen. And then he's like, oh, well, we haven't even talked to Wilder's team now. Like, come on, guy. But I just wanted to clear that up because I got a lot of people who say, oh, well, you have a personal issue against him. And then I notice a lot of people in the UK, you guys absolutely love Anthony Joshua. And I can't fault you guys for that. But you love him to the point to where you have absolutely blinded yourself on who Anthony Joshua is, and your expectations for this guy is way above what he's done as a fighter. And, I mean, if you look at his resume, he beat an old Klitschko, who was champ, older, in his 40s. He beat a white who's got, 5+ losses on his resume. Shakur, who's got like 13 freaking losses on his resume. 2 fights against Andy Ruiz, where he lost one against Andy Ruiz, the overweight, out of shape Andy Ruiz, and then beat the other one. And then he lost the only guy that he actually fought with absolutely unbelievable boxing skills that you could have said, oh, okay, here's a great matchup to really test AJ. And he got his butt kicked by him. That was Usyk. He got his butt kicked by him twice. So your guys' love affair in the UK with Anthony Joshua, I don't know. I guess because you guys, like a buddy of mine said, they come up with this guy. They watch him for a while. They hate to see him lose. They do love him over there. But I just think that he is a highly overrated fighter, man. That Deontay Wilder fight, if that does happen, I don't say any fight. I don't really like to talk about fights that I don't think is going to happen, or there's no guarantees in whatsoever that fight will happen. But if this fight ever does happen, I think that's not good news for Anthony Joshua. I think he gets knocked out in a bad way, and mentally, I don't think he recovers from it, and you could possibly see the end of that guy's career. So I think you hold off the Wilder fight as long as you can, and you don't fight Fury either. I hate seeing on there the UK guys really, really, really think that Anthony Joshua could beat Tyson Fury. Like I said, dude, I have no idea what kind of Kool-Aid this guy's been feeding you guys, but it's obviously something. The AJ Kool-Aid is strong over there in the UK. And I love you guys are backing this guy, but let's be realistic when it comes to being what his actual talent level is. Let's be honest, his last 2 fights. He didn't look that great in the first one. He didn't look that great against Helenius. He landed a big punch in the 7th round. Outside of that, he sat back, waited for things to happen. He wasn't aggressive, didn't show, like he just, that simple 1-2, 1-1-2, 1-1-2. 1-1-2 set up that big punch. That's all he did the whole fight. How do you think that's going to go against Wilder if he goes in there with just a 1-1-2? He's going to get 1-1, knocked out, sleeping. It's going to be easy to time that for a guy like Wilder. But, like I said, I don't know, UK guys, I don't hate Eddie Hearns, and I don't understand your fascination with Anthony Joshua. Maybe comment below and tell me, what's up, guys? Why are we still on this Anthony Joshua train? The UK I respect so much when it comes to boxing because I feel like they watch a lot more boxing in the UK than what we do here in the US. And they keep up with it a lot more than what we do here. So that's why when I see something like this, I don't understand it because you guys are big boxing fans, man. You guys know your stuff. So you clearly see the same thing that I see, that a lot of other Americans, a lot of other people around the world, and boxing fans see that AJ doesn't have that championship caliber to him. And that I don't think he'll ever be a champion again, man. If he does, hey, I'm absolutely wrong, dude, and I'll come on here. I'll eat those words. I promise you that. I'll eat those words if that guy's ever a champion again. And I'll come on here and I'll personally make a whole episode dedicated to AJ and apologize to all the UK people and AJ personally. But I don't think that's going to happen, man. I don't think that's going to happen. But like I said, man, there is some big boxing news this week. I'm totally bummed on news that I heard early in the week, hearing that Alicia Baumgardner has tested positive not once but twice, 2 different tests failed for steroid use. Man, it really bums me out. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. When she was at the Clarissa Shields fight, if I'm correct, that's the fight that I saw her at, and she flexed. She flexed like she was ripped. Ripped, dude. In my head, I said, man, is she on steroids? Because she is ripped. Like, I watched her come up, and it was like almost overnight, she just came out of nowhere and just started put off like 6, 7, 8 straight wins, something like that, after taking a loss, first loss of her career. And I kind of thought when seeing her at that fight, I'm like, man, she is fucking ripped. She's really ripped head to toe. Like, that's either some incredibly great conditioning that she's doing, great dieting, and just great dedication on herself to just look as good as she looked, man. Just head to toe was just banging, man. Just banging. I'm telling you. But then to find this out really bums me out. She said she's going to clear her name. Of course, they all get up there, claim they don't know nothing about it. They don't do anything illegal. I just for once would love to see it. Like, you got Conor Ben doing the same crap, appealing his thing with the BBC, or not the BBC, British Broadcasting Channel. My bad. With the British Boxing Committee, so it might be the BBC, I guess. But anyways, he's trying to appeal with them again, swear up and down that he didn't do nothing, and they got too much evidence against him to prove that he did. So for him to, but that's the same thing with Alicia. I would like for one time see somebody get up there and say, you know what, yeah, I took steroids, or, I screwed up, I needed an edge, and I messed up. I'll make sure this doesn't happen again. Just own up sometimes, man. I think it makes things a lot easier than getting up there and then claiming your innocence if you know you're not innocent, man. It's like digging a hole and just you're digging your way in, and it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't reflect well onto you. So if you come out of this and you're like, oh man, you don't clear your name, you take a suspension, whatever happens, and you're on here telling everybody you are innocent and you're not, it just reflects very badly on you. I'm hoping, because I am a huge, huge fan of Alicia Baumgardner, so I'm 100% hoping that she can clear her name, and if not, Alicia, just come forward, because you're going to be able to continue your career and be one of the top out there in the game of boxing. You know what I mean? You just got to do it the right way. So if it is, just come forward and be straight up with it. But I think that news of her basically failing those DTs will derail any chance of fighting Amanda Serrano. But let's not forget, Amanda got popped for something over the summer that nobody ever talked about. Nothing was ever said. It was kind of swept under the rug and ignored. I don't know what it was, what happened, but there was something there with her too. So she's not 100%, on the legit either, unless she proved her innocence. I don't know. But I didn't hear anything like it, not like you're hearing with this Alicia Baumgardner thing, Baumgardner. But like I said, I think that derails any chance of that fight. So you pretty much ask who's next on the line for Amanda Serrano when you got Katie Taylor fighting. Sorry about that. Fighting Chantel Cameron, November 25th. So, I guess he maybe takes a year off, looks for, see what the outcome of that fight is, wait for Katie Taylor. I don't think that, if Katie Taylor loses again to Chantel Cameron, it takes the air out of that Amanda Serrano-Katie Taylor fight. Number one, it's been entirely too long for a rematch. Number two, Katie losing 2 times since the previous rematch. If she loses again, that'd be 2 losses on her part. So that'd deflate that whole thing. I really believe so. I think it'd be a hell of a fight. Will I tune in? 100%. But I think it takes the air out of what we saw in the first one, where you had Puerto Ricans and Irish on each side, and that fight was just amazing atmosphere, something really special to watch. But like I said, if Katie loses again to Chantel Cameron, which I think she does because she gave it her all against that girl, the size difference I think is too much. The power from Chantel is too much. She's a very smart, good, powerful, big fighter. She's a lot bigger than Taylor is. But like I said, I think that deflates that fight in any way if she loses again. There's nothing to it as far as like, well, Katie's no longer undefeated. So what are we really fighting for there? I guess the unification belts, all that kind of stuff for Katie's belts. But outside of that, there wouldn't be much. The undefeated thing is over with. So that would deflate that fight. Like I said, still watch it. Still be a big fight for me. But let's also talk about next week, man. Top Rank has decided to put on a doubleheader for us. Over in Poland, you're going to get early in the day. You're going to get the Usyk and Tobias fight, which is going to be great. Big fight for the heavyweight. Nice for the heavyweights, to see Usyk back in the ring. The heavyweight division needs him in the ring. They need him and Fury in the ring, but I won't get on that topic because it just aggravates me that these guys couldn't make this fight happen. And I don't know who's to blame. I'm not going to say it's Fury. I'm not going to say it's Usyk. I don't know. It sucks. These two couldn't get it done. But at least Usyk moved on to an actual boxer, while Fury decided he was going to go fight him, an MMA guy. So, awesome for him to do that as an active fighter. But anyways, the Usyk-Dubai fight going on next week. Top Rank will have that on early in Poland. Going to be on Top Rank, ESPN Plus, not a pay-per-view fight. Unlike over on DAZN, where they're going to make you pay to watch Jake Paul on pay-per-view. Crap like that. So Top Rank's putting on big fights. Like, I saw Eddie Hearns make a statement that he believes DAZN has put on the best fights this year, and I laughed so hard. And I'm like, dude, the free fights that we have gotten from Top Rank, Shakur fights and, the just the big fights that have went on over there all year. Just so many that we got. The Inouye freaking fight. All these big fights, none of them being on pay-per-view. Top Rank really showing out this year as far as that. Now, of course, they're understable. They're under fights. Their cards aren't as strong as DAZN and Showtime, in my opinion, because they, like I said, Top Rank is not real good about developing talent when they put a bunch of cab drivers in there with these guys. But I won't get on that topic. That'll get me off topic again. I kind of forgot. Oh, yeah, the next week, Top Rank putting on that doubleheader. Like I said, Usyk Dubai. And then later that night, you're going to get Big Baby Anderson back in the ring after almost taking a loss to Charles Martin. So, maybe not even a month ago. I'm pretty sure that was around the beginning of July. So almost, 2 months since he was in the ring. So 2 months between. These guys are setting standards now, man. Nobody's waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 months to fight. These guys are fighting every 2 to 3 months now. We saw that with Oscar Valdez. And I don't know how that favors you or disfavors you, but I think after a tough fight like sorry about that. Big Baby Anderson had in his last one, it's pretty good that he gets right back in the ring. And we will see if he fixes those issues. If he's doing the lean back, man, if he's still looking at the clock, he should fire his trainer. That's bottom line. If he's still making those same mistakes that almost got him beat against Charles Martin, the looking at the clock, the lean back instead of the step back, even him leaning back from these punches as a heavyweight, worst defense you can do as a heavyweight. That lean back. I'm not a fan of the lean back defense, period. I just think it's garbage. It takes your footwork out of you're out of posture, your feet are out of place, and you're leaning back and you're opening yourself up for rush in over the top punches on you, and you can't really defend yourself that well with that. So hopefully he fixes those two things, and he has a trainer that's good enough to go in and fix those for him. If I continue to see him do the same thing, I'm going to lose a little bit of hope in Big Baby Anderson being able to beat any of the top talent, because I think anybody big is going to just absolutely destroy him with those two flaws that he has. But that gives us all day boxing in the States, which, I mean, come on, man. We got to take a shot to that all day boxing next weekend. Like I said, this week, not a lot of big fights on there. I did watch the Danny McKean fight, and man, you could have made an argument that he lost. The fight got stopped in the 8th round due to a accidental headbutt that happened, I want to say, around the 6th round. An accidental headbutt happened that cut McCain's eye open pretty bad. He fought a few more rounds with it, and then just by the 8th, it was just too bad. They stopped the fight, and then they gave it a majority draw, so nobody won the fight. Came down to a draw. Definitely like to see these two guys go back at it. I felt Buatsi, I think it was the name, maybe, landed the bigger punches in that fight. So you could have argued that McKean took his first loss, in all honesty. He was up against his first vet-type talent, good fighter. So it was his first true test, and he definitely got tested, man. So maybe something he can take back, like I said. But that's what you're supposed to do, and hats off. That was actually on TNT Sports. I don't know if you guys know much about that, but that's where that fight was showcased on. I've seen a couple other on that, starting to get more hip to the TNT Sports channel when it comes to boxing. But like I said, tough day for him, but this is a lot to learn from. He can go back, break down that, and learn from that. And like I say, I believe every fighter should learn from every single fight. He's going to learn a lot from this, and we'll see how he rebounds from it, man. Good fight overall. There's a couple other fights on the docket tonight. Two of them started at 8 o'clock, if I'm correct. Let's see who we got here. And I want to say one of the fights is the that OTX on the zone, but they call it Next Gen, so I don't know if that's different from the OTX. I'm thinking it is. Nestor Bravo versus Will Madeira. That is going to be on the zone. Yep. That's going to be on the zone. And then you're also going to get the Galal Yapi versus Tommy Frank fight on the zone also. And like I said, next week, that nice little double header. But you're also going to get Oscar Calizo and Jaron Diagan on August 26th. That one is going to be on the zone also. So, you got some pretty decent fights next week. Looks like Top Rank's going to dominate that day for me. I'll probably just keep it on Top Rank. I'm thinking about actually getting rid of my zone subscription. What the fuck? Subscription. Getting rid of that, $24.99 a month. And then you guys want me to pay for a Jake Paul fight. I wouldn't watch a Jake Paul fight for free. More or less pay for it. That's kind of... And I see them promoting KSI. They promote Jake. And whatever, man. These guys are out there doing their thing. I'm just not a fan of it, dude. I don't, to me, it's just, these guys aren't out here fighting boxers. They're just out here fighting whoever the hell wants to fight them, really. And, to me, if you guys want to be boxers, do it the right way. That's just my opinion. But, hey, they're making money off of it, so whatever, man. Let's take this shot, and let's see if there's anything else I'm going to talk about this week. I don't think there is much to talk about, man. I'm going to give a shout-out to Brown Family Construction. For all your construction needs, hit them up. Check them out on Facebook, Brown Family Construction. You can get all the information on them you need there. Any construction needs, any in-house needs, remodeling. These guys are really good. Jason Brown is a really good professional, man. He does a hell of a job. And I would recommend him anytime, guys. So don't forget about Brown Family Construction, man. Let's do this shot here. I guess it's going to be the end of the show, man. I had plans on doing a couple shots on this show, but it's not as long as I thought it was going to be. Ready to get it in and get it over with. But, hey, guys, once again, Bourbon and Boxing. I'm your host, Jeff. Episode 10. I guess we'll call this episode a hot mess. My AC's out. On top of Alicia Baumgardner's news. being in some hot mess. We'll call this episode 10 hot mess, man. Thank you guys for joining me. Let's take this shot and call this episode what it is, guys. Thank you guys for joining me like always, man. Bourbon and boxing.